Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravatikacharya Osutara Satashi Shimad. His Divine Grace Abhaya Chananad Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anandakoti Vaishnava Vrind Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Rem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Govardha Sayam Kund Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Maturadam Ki Jai Navadiptam Ki Jai Jagadada Sami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bo. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, Om Gana Timidanda Shah, Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmeritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, as some of you heard, we just finished the ISKCON Disciple course. So I'd like to give you a brief overview of what that course is. So some of you may want to take it in the future. And it's an important course for the reason that it helps us continue Srila Prabhupada's, it's part of the strategy to help us continue Srila Prabhupada's legacy. Now, what is Srila Prabhupada's legacy? I think that can be very nicely explained by a verse in the Bhagavatam, Tadvag Visargo Janataka Vipulavo Yasmin Parishlokam Abhadabhatrapi Namananantasha Yashoni Katani Yatshin Vanti Gayanti Grenati Yat Sadavaha. That this verse states that this Krishna consciousness, and specifically the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Dharma, is meant for creating a revolution in the misdirected lives of an impious civilization. Now here we're talking about not a violent revolution, but a revolution in consciousness. Because in this age of Kali, everyone has a little bit of devil in them. And I'm sorry, a lot of devil in I made a mistake there. A lot of devil and a little bit of angel in them. So Lord Chaitanya is very kind. In the previous ages, we had Krishna, who was also a little kind. And Krishna took the devils and he got rid of them in the Mahabharata war. But in the age of Kali, you have everybody pretty mixed. You know, the devil made me do it, and the devil and the angel, and basically everyone's heart. So the revolution comes internally. And that is what Srila Prabhupada wanted to change society so that everybody can worship the Supreme Personality of God in their own religion. We're not talking about changing your religion or anything like that, but chanting the names of God, doing what we call the Yuga Dharma. Yuga Dharma is Nama Sankirtan, chanting the names of God in any religion, as Lord Chaitanya teaches us that Krishna, God, has invested all of his transcendental potency in all of his holy names. Nam Namakari Bahalda Nija Sarva Shaktis. So this is Srila Prabhupada's mission. And why is he executing that mission? For the good of society, out of his compassion, and also to satisfy his teacher, his spiritual master, his divine grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So in order to accomplish this mission, we need to stay united. Because if everybody goes off in different directions, nothing's going to be accomplished. Everybody has to work together. Just like rowing a boat. If you've ever seen these competitions, the boat rowing they do at the universities. Anyone seen that before? Competitions? Then everybody has to row in sync. You know, just go, Actually, one time we did some whitewater rafting. You know what that is? And so we had a captain, and the captain had to call the shots. Okay, right side row, left side row. When you're going down the river, because of the rapids, you can get in trouble. And of course, we trained the captain, even though he wasn't a devotee, to say, when you row on the right side and say right side to tell everybody to row on the right side, you say Nittai. And the left side, you say Gauranga. So for 3 or 4 hours, this captain, who wasn't a devotee, was chanting, Nittai Gauranga, Nittai Gauranga. And he became a devotee afterwards. This was in Croatia, this happened. It was a great experience. So that's why we cooperate. So we can go to a place and not get in trouble in the rapids going down the river. So the purpose of this ISKCON Disciple Course is to give us some insight how to cooperate under the jurisdiction of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. And in order to do that, first of all, we have to understand Srila Prabhupada's exemplary position. And in order to explain that, I'm going to talk about Lord Chaitanya first. So Lord Chaitanya, he did some amazing things that I don't think any other devotee has ever been able to do. One of those things is that he had animals chanting and dancing. And that's pretty good. He went through this forest known as the Jarakanda forest. And sometimes he would just throw some water on the elephants that were bathing. And they would get up and they would chant and dance, and the tigers and the deer. They would chant and dance and kiss each other and everything like that. And it was pretty amazing. Of course, I wasn't there. But his servant was shocked to see that. So that's something very unique. And that indicates a very unique personality. Only God can do that. So Prabhupada did things like that, not exactly the same thing. If he had done that, you'd be reading about it. So he did some things that were so amazing that only someone in a very exalted position, what we call Shaktavesh avatar, could do. And I'm going to tell 2 stories about that. I mean, of course, Prabhupada, the other day in Bhagavatam class, we were talking about mystic powers, how sometimes people have these mystic powers. Mahima city, they can make themselves very small. Or Mahima, they can make themselves very big, pretty good without eating a lot, and small without going to a weight reduction clinic. So make themselves big, small, Lagima, very light, they can fly in the air. Prapti city, they can reach out and make a bank withdrawal from someone else's account. So that's called Prapti city. And then I was thinking about Prabhupada's mystic powers. And Prabhupada said one time his mystic power was to change hippies into happies. And I'm going to tell 2 stories that illustrate his exalted position in this regard. And one story is a very quick story. The other story is a little longer. One story is once upon a time, Prabhupada was in an airplane. Many times Prabhupada took airplanes. And he was eating a particular dish called chidwa, which is like puff rice preparation, with some nuts and everything. And the stewardess just happened to walk by Prabhupada, said, it looks tasty. She popped some in her mouth. After Prabhupada ate it, was his remnants, actually. And no one thought anything of it. And then a few years later, devotees, this was happening in South America. A few years later, the devotees were going through Brazil on Sankirtan distributing books, and they knocked on the door in the jungles, the Amazon, where all the monkeys and the not bears, but anyway, whatever is there, and knocked on someone's door, and there was a lady dressed in a sari, with tilak on, with an altar, with Gornatai on her altar, and they said, how did you get here? And she said, well, I took some chidwa. Now, she didn't know what chidwa was. I met your spiritual master, and then her whole life changed just by eating the remnants of a pure devotee. So, of course, it's described that when you have a very pure devotee, if you eat the prasadam remnants or drink the foot bathing water or take the foot dust of such a great personality, it's so powerful it could make you a devotee. It's amazing. So anyway, that was a short story, but there's actually a much longer, more interesting story that I'm going to tell. Some of you heard it the other morning in class. Really, when I heard this, it was one devotee, Indradunya Maharaj, was telling this story. And I thought everyone should hear it because I was just like overwhelmed with ecstasy when I heard it. So once upon a time, the devotees were in France, in Paris. and they were preaching Krishna consciousness, and they heard a knock on the temple door, and this person was at the other side of the door, and he was basically had fleas all over, fleas, flies. He probably hasn't bathed in like 3 or 4 years, something like that. And he couldn't pronounce words even in French properly. And he just said, food, like that. And the devotees, of course, being compassionate, brought some prasadam to him and said, here, take this prasadam. But you really can't come in. I mean, you really smell bad. I remember in New Orleans, we used to insist that all the people who took prasadam came in the temple room for the Sunday feast. It happened once, and then I wouldn't let them in the temple room after that because I couldn't give the lecture. The smell was so bad. Anyway, sometimes you have people like that. So, anyway, then the devotees, when this devotee, Indradyumna Maharaj, went for a walk, and he walked by and saw this person living in the bushes there, right near the Champs-Élysées, which is one of the main portions in Paris. And the person just said, food again, food. All he could say was food, or French. And then basically he told them go to the temple, so they gave him some more food. Eventually, Srila Prabhupada arrives in Paris, visiting the devotees, takes the devotees on a morning walk near the same place, the Champs-Élysées. This guy jumps out of the bushes, tries to grab Prabhupada's feet, but the devotees just, get away, you smelly thing, whatever. And so they push him back into the bushes and say, don't worry about him, Prabhupada. So, okay, devotees go on the morning walk. They come back, and when they come back to the temple, they find the temple door open, and this person is inside the temple, in the temple room, right in front of the deities. And so they don't know what to do. So they walk in with Prabhupada, and the person dives immediately for Prabhupada's feet and holds on to Prabhupada's feet. And the devotees are thinking, oh my God, what are we going to do? Let's chuck the guy out, beat him up or something. Who knows what they were thinking. And then Prabhupada said, no. And Prabhupada began to pat him on the head, with all the fleas and everything like that coming out. And so he began to pat him on the head. Yes, everything will be all right. Hare Krishna. And so the devotees were astounded. What can we do? This is the compassion of a pure devotee. Wow, what compassion. I mean, I couldn't deal with that one. But anyway, so then there was class. This person sat through class. And, like that, sat through class and was just listening to class. They didn't know what to do, but they said, probably gave him mercy. Okay, so they took him upstairs, hosed him down or something like that. Gave him a bath, brought him back, put a dhoti on him, so combed his hair or whatever, cut it off or whatever. And they didn't know what to do. But eventually, he started staying in the temple. And he began to clean the temple. He became very expert in cleaning the temples, but he became very pleased with him. But still, he couldn't pronounce a word in French or English. Just food. All he could say was food. And he was chanting. And actually, the devotees, when they wanted to throw him out, he just had one more thing to say to the devotees. He said, Prabhupada, save me. Prabhupada, save me. Prabhupada, save me. And so the devotees just didn't have the heart to throw him out. Because Prabhupada, save me. Prabhupada, save me. And all he did was grab hold of Prabhupada's feet and get patted on the head by Srila Prabhupada. So then what happens is that, he's doing a nice job cleaning the temple. So the devotees get ready to go on Sankirtan. Indradyumna Maharaj, they have a Sankirtan van. They pack it with books. Narayan Prabhu was there. Not really. This is before he was born. Anyway, so, yeah. No, this is not a story about addiction, right? It's a story about another. So, and then they get ready to drive the van away, and then sitting in the passenger seat is this guy, who they call Pigpen, incidentally. That's from the Charles Schulz cartoons, if anyone you've seen. They picture this young kid, with flies all over, with hair all over. And so somehow the devotees called him Pigpen. It's not so compassionate to call someone Pigpen. Yeah, they call him Pigpen. So Intraduni Maharaj tells the story. He said, Pigpen, why are you sitting here? He said, Sankirtan, Prabhupada saved me. Prabhupada saved me. He said, you can't go on Sankirtan. Go back and clean the temple. And so he said, Prabhupada saved me. Sankirtan. It's a good Sankirtan story, isn't it? So, all right, they said, all right. They took him out and traveling Sankirtan. So the devotees prepared their breakfast. In the meantime, this person, who, for lack of a better word, was called Pigpen, but he wasn't. Actually, at this point, he was a little clean. So this, while they were preparing prasad and bringing to eat, he just took a big book bag and packed it full of books, went out and started distributing books. And they thought, oh, God knows what's going to happen. So he comes back while they're still eating or just finishing eating, and they're just talking to each other, and the book bag is empty. And they say, what did you do with the books? You didn't throw them away, did you? He said, no, I distributed the books. They said, how did you distribute the books? And he, got Lakshmi for him, money for him too. And he said, I just said, Prabhupada saved me. That was his Sankirtan line. You could try that sometime. But it has to be done with sincerity. Prabhupada saved me. Prabhupada saved me. They go, oh my God. So then he continued to distribute books and became one of the best book distributors. Later on, see that by the mercy of Prabhupada, this is like Lord Chaitanya getting the tigers and lions and whatever other animals and deer to kiss and everything like that and chant Hare Krishna. So he became one of the best book distributors after some time and became very knowledgeable in the philosophy, was giving class, preached in Brazil, preached all over the world, distributed books all over the world, took initiation from Prabhupada. His name was Rasada, and came to America, was distributing books. And of course, he passed away recently due to some disease. But the point is, by the mercy, just by touching Prabhupada's feet and getting the pat on the head by Srila Prabhupada, he changed. His whole life changed. Just by remembering, Prabhupada saved me, Prabhupada saved me. And he never committed an offense. Of course, I met him. He was a very wonderful devotee. And so that's very special. And we've seen there's many cases like that, how Prabhupada really changed people's lives in many ways. So we can understand that Prabhupada and presenting Prabhupada to people purely, and Prabhupada's teachings purely to people, can change society. So that's what we're attempting to do. So when we talk about ISKCON Disciple Course, we're not talking about people who become gurus to supplant or substitute or interfere with people's relationship with Prabhupada. We're talking about setting up a system so that people can connect people with Prabhupada. And this is disciplic succession. And be gurus. It's not that Prabhupada continues to initiate, but those who initiate are initiating their own disciples, but connecting people to the siksha, the instruction of Prabhupada. And siksha is more important than diksha. Now, I'll explain those two words, since some of you may not know the Sanskrit. Siksha means instructions. It's not a word that means any. In the culture that I was brought up, it meant people that were not Jewish. Anyways, so it means instructions, and diksha means initiation. Taking your vows, making your promises, like that. Both are important, but of the two, siksha is most important. Instructions. Diksha is essential. But shiksha continues after the diksha. It continues eternally. Instructions, guidance, and example. So Srila Prabhupada instructs us not only with his words, which we have so many volumes of, but also with his personal examples. So Srila Prabhupada is known as an acharya. Now, the word acharya, that's a Sanskrit word again, means one who sets an example, one who preaches nicely, one who sets an example. But Srila Prabhupada is not just someone who sets an example and preaches nicely. He's the founder Acharya, which means someone who sets the example for the whole society. So it's very important for the gurus or people who accept students, disciples, whatever you may call it, to connect people with Srila Prabhupada's example, with Srila Prabhupada's teaching, with Srila Prabhupada's mission. Because in this way, they're connected to, let's say, the powerhouse. Let's say you have a powerhouse which is so many millions of volts or whatever it is, and then you have the plug, what you call in Europe a PowerPoint. I don't know. I think you call that in India too, a PowerPoint, right? That's a British statement, PowerPoint. So when you connect the plug is useful too, very important. But when you connect it to the power, and Srila Prabhupada, he's not the source of power. We have to understand this. We don't want to confuse people and think that, Srila Prabhupada is God or anything like that. He's a Shaktavesh avatar, someone who was sent down by God, someone who was sent down by Krishna to connect other people with Krishna. He's a very special personality. There are many special personalities, like Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master was like that too. But Srila Prabhupada accomplished something extremely unique in coming to the Western world and presenting this topmost philosophy that was given to us by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by Krishna, by the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. These are our predecessors, our spiritual predecessors, by giving us this complete understanding of spirituality. As Krishna says in the Gita, phenomenal and numinous. That even, not only of spirituality, what's there in the spiritual world, but what's happening in the material world. In other words, what's the purpose of everything in the material world? What's the purpose of disease even? Oh my God. You may say, what's the purpose of disease? There's a purpose. What's the purpose of old age? Which I'm experiencing. What's the purpose of death? What's the purpose of birth? What's the purpose of the weather, the problems with the weather? What's the purpose of all the problems in the world? What's the purpose of life? And that's amazing. All of our questions are answered about phenomenal. That means things you can see. Numinous means things you can't see. I mean, that's really why I took up Krishna consciousness, because I was looking for the answers to those questions. And Prabhupada has given us a whole package of those things. So the purpose of this course is to enable people to assist Prabhupada in presenting that whole package, and so they can also go out and present to others that whole package. In other words, it's a package of empowerment that Prabhupada empowers others to do that, and those others empower others. And then, scientific notation, and no one knows scientific notation, 10 to the whatever power. Even if you'd like take 2 to the millionth power, you got a pretty big number. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, and I'm not going to do it. You can take out your slide rule and do it. So it's exponential. So things expand exponentially. So in order to do that, there has to be organization, understanding of Srila Prabhupada's position, understanding of the present gurus who are initiating their position, how they interact, how they cooperate with each other, how they should be respected, how they should be worshipped. And this is what the course is all about. And, how to stay faithful to Srila Prabhupada, and how to organize this movement. I mean, in this movement, we have professional management too. I mean, one of the aspects we didn't present in the course, which is not really part of the course, is that we have a governing body commission. Like everybody says, sometimes people say, you got to be spiritual, spontaneous. Well, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? You heard that before? So organization. Prabhupada said, when he was asked by Giriraj, when he asked Giriraj Maharaj, will this movement go on? And Giriraj Maharaj said, basically, if we're sincere, and Prabhupada said, no, organization and intelligence. So it requires a lot of organizational stuff. And that's what we have this thing called the GBC Governing Body Commission. I'm going to a meeting in Mayapur next month, a meeting in Mayapur of the Governing Body Commission. And it requires training of disciples. That's what we're doing here. We're training disciples in the right consciousness so they can also become gurus in the future. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he wanted everyone to become a guru, not just a follower. I mean, a follower, yes, it always has to be there so we can become guru. But let's say, give a story of his pastimes in South India. When he went to South India, people wanted to drop everything and follow him. There was one devotee, Kurma Brahman. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, don't ever talk like that. He said, stay where you are, stani stata, shruti gatam, tan vanmano bir, and just take up this chanting, this process of bhakti. And then, yare deka tarikar Krishna Padesh, amarigai guru hori tore desh. That's Bengali. We have one Bengali devotee here, a token Bengali devotee. So it means, yare deka to whoever you come in contact with it, you give them Krishna Upadesh, you give them Krishna's association. So we are not only training up disciples, but we are training up gurus in the Krishna consciousness movement. And that's the challenge. So you can help others. Because if you have the ability, if we have the ability to help others, and we don't help them, that's called kripana. Like if someone is getting ready to fall off a building, and you don't warn them, you don't help them, you're an idiot. I mean, one time there's the story of the devotees were preparing for Rath Yatra, and there was a burning building, and the ladies were on the third or fourth floor. Save me, save me. So what did the devotees do? They didn't say, just chant Hare Krishna and go back to Godhead. No, they didn't say. You would think that. They would say, chant Hare Krishna, Krishna will take care of you. No, what they took the canopy for the Rath Yatra cart, held it out, and said, jump. And they caught the people, and they saved them. And Prabhupada, when he heard that, said, yes, that's a devotee. That's what a devotee is, para dukkha dukhi. That's what we're trying to instill in everyone's heart. To sacrifice your life for the welfare of others. And that requires cooperation, intelligence, and management. And that's what we're doing in the Krishna consciousness movement. And there'll be some mistakes, there'll be problems, but we stick, just like if one is on a boat, the boat may rock a little bit, so you stick to the boat. You don't just jump off and say the boat's rocking. One time I was out in the ocean in a boat, and it was rocking back and forth, and I wanted to jump off. When I was a kid, my father said, don't jump. Even though I was hanging off the side doing something I can't mention in class. So, because if you want to stay safe, you stay on the boat. And that's what this ISKCON is. It's a boat to carry humanity. It's like Noah's Ark, basically, to carry humanity back to its original position, to the spiritual world. So that's basically it in a nutshell, what the disciple course is. And it's just in summary, we teach about the ISKCON gurus, what it's a guru's quality, and the ultimate quality is faithfulness to Srila Prabhupada and following the rules and regulations and having some spiritual knowledge and understanding oneself to be a servant of Srila Prabhupada and the predecessor acharyas. And then we talk about initiation, vows that, the promises that people take at initiation. Very simple: no meat, fish, or eggs, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling, chanting a few number of rounds, 16 numbers of rounds. How to serve the spiritual master in relationship to Prabhupada. What's the difference between this Vani, which is the words of Srila Prabhupada and the spiritual master, or the Vapu, or the form of the spiritual master and Srila Prabhupada? How to present one's guru in relationship to Srila Prabhupada to make unity in the movement, because if one becomes too much focused on one's particular guru, then there's separatism. We want to all work together and see everyone as part of the same family. No separate guru groups in ISKCON. And see everyone is working under Prabhupada. I mean, just like, and I gave you the example the previous day, that it's just like in an Indian village, everyone is a brother, cousin sister. Doesn't matter whether they came from the same father or mother. It really has nothing to do with it. Everyone's brother and sister. So you want to have this sort of village relationship in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So that's basically it. Love and trust and cooperation to please Srila Prabhupada, and then everything can be accomplished. And Srila Prabhupada's position is so exalted, as we demonstrated in the first two stories, that there will be success for sure. Because if we present Prabhupada, we are giving the same dust, the same feet that this devotee touched, Rasada touched, and got mercy. And we are presenting, and you're getting that in the Vani of Srila Prabhupada and the instructions and the example of Srila Prabhupada, which we are asking devotees to study. Another thing I wanted to just announce is that if anyone's interested in hearing the Prabhupada memory series of Prabhupada's disciples, then I'm going to put that up on the cloud so people can download that whole thing and learn how to relate closer to Srila Prabhupada. So, any questions or comments?
I had, I guess, a comment. You were talking about how management is important.
Yes.
And I was just thinking about that. It is because, like, someone could read the book, one of Prabhupada's books, and then, like, if he can get, like, disturbed or upset because he doesn't know, like, the context or how to take things. If you don't know how to preach, you can be like, that person can just go away quick.
Yes, that's actually a very good point. That's what I presented last week during the Sunday program, if you remember. Thank you for reminding me that in presenting this disciple course and other courses about ISKCON, we're trying to help everyone understand the context and intentions of Srila Prabhupada. Because as we mentioned last week, there's a tendency as the generations go on in ISKCON or in any organization to forget the context and the intention of the person who is speaking. I mean, the words of Srila Prabhupada are perfectly preserved. There's no question about what Srila Prabhupada said, what Srila Prabhupada didn't say, because we've recorded, not I, but the devotees have recorded them. We have like 15 gigabytes of recorded information from Srila Prabhupada. What to speak of all of his writings. But as far as the intention and the context, I mean, why Prabhupada said a particular thing in a particular place, we need association and we need instruction to understand those things. Thank you for telling me that, Sukarna. Very nice. So who else has a question? Prabhupada.
Unfortunately, I missed the beginning, and maybe you already answered this question, but you ended on the note of love and trust, which those of us that came in the beginning remember that mood. Of course, the temples were smaller. There were only a few temples.
Yeah.
Srila Prabhupada was directly supervising and taking care of the devotees with his own hands.
Mm-hmm.
So this love and trust, how to keep it going when you have a movement now with, I hear, 600 temples around the world. You go to Mayapur and you're like thousands and thousands of devotees, and sometimes that mood of family, love, and trust is not so prevalent.
Well, that's why it's necessary, as bad as his word sounds, it's necessary to have a hierarchy. In other words, to have specific devotees who we're working with or relating with, and then we branch out from that. Of course, the mood of love should be for all Vaishnavas and all living entities. But our cooperation is with, it can't be that we're cooperating with everybody. Everybody comes up to me and says, hey, would you like to do this? Okay, cooperate with you. Okay, like to do this, cooperate with you. There has to be some hierarchy. As bad as that sounds, I mean, hierarchy seems to be a bad word in many people's vocabulary, but we need some sort of structure to help with this love and trust. And also it means we should begin with loving and trusting Prabhupada and the advanced devotees in our society. And then the love and trust can expand. But, love has to be there ultimately for all living entities. That's a devotee. If a devotee has any animosity towards anyone, that indicates they're not very advanced. According to Lord Kapila Dev, we find what is it? Titikshava, Kurunika, Surada, Sarvadena, Majata Shatrava, Shanta, Sadava, Sadabhushana. The qualities of a devotee, like Srila Prabhupada, for example, well, pure devotee, is that they're tolerant, they're full of mercy, they're a friend to all living entities. Like Krishna also says that in the Gita. Suradam, Krishna used that same word, Suradam, in the 29th verse of the 5th chapter. Bhaktaram Jagatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshram Suradam Sarvabhutanam Getwamam Shamti Mrichati. So devotees have to try to inculcate those qualities internally. It's not an artificial thing, but each and every one of us has to work on developing these qualities, the Vaishnava qualities. Tatiksha Surda Sarvadainam, Ajata Shatrava, not having any enemies. Shanta, peaceful. Sadava Sadabhushana. These are the qualities that we should be attempting to develop. And it takes intelligence to develop those, yes. So other questions?
Yes, wanted to ask you that is this in our spiritual life, if we don't progress towards becoming a guru from a devotee, is the spiritual life incomplete?
If you don't become a guru, is your spiritual life incomplete?
Yeah.
Not that you have to be, everyone should become a guru in the sense of initiating people, but everyone should be a guru in the sense of helping the people you know come to Krishna. You know, like we described, there's Siksha Gurus and Diksha Gurus. Siksha Guru means one who helps others, instruct others. And even there's another type of guru called Vartma Pradashika Guru, one who first shows them the path. And I'll give you the example of one person like that. In the Bhagavatam, there's the story of Dhruva Maharaj. And many of you have heard the story of Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj was sort of rejected by his father because his stepmother had some challenges, Suruchi. But his mother, when in giving him advice, said, if you actually want to get the love of your father to sit on your father's lap, you should worship Lord Vishnu. Now, she wasn't a pure devotee, but at least she knew that much. And Dhruva Maharaj said, where's Lord Vishnu? And she said, I heard he's in the forest. So he went into the forest to find Lord Vishnu, and fortunately, Narada Muni happened to come by. That's pretty unfortunate. And it's a fact. If one is looking for guru, Krishna will send guru. Brahmanda Brahmate Akunda Bhagwan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Latapish. That the spirit soul is wandering, and by the mercy of Krishna, he gets guru, who gives him the creeper of devotion, or the seed of devotion. So what happened is that Dhruva Maharaj met Narada Muni, and he took initiation from Narada Muni, got the mantra from Narada Muni. But his mother was his guru who showed him the path. And when Dhruva Maharaj was getting ready to go back to home, back to Vaikuntha, he said, hey, where's my mom? And they said, well, she's in the airplane right behind you, you know. She had to go through security. No, they didn't say that. That's a joke. Anyways, TSA held her up, you know. So she was in the airplane behind, and she went back to Godhead. So she was a guru. So at least be that tight. I think it just behooves us when we see people suffering to at least introduce them to Krishna, give them some prasadam. And you're a guru if you do that. Guru means heavy with knowledge, or at least giving them something. I mean, if people are suffering and you can do something about it, why not? Why not? If you see people suffering, I mean, it's just, I can't believe that people would just like stand by and just say, watch suffering, right? So in that sense, you become a guru, yes. And it's everyone's responsibility. Specifically, Lord Chaitanya said, those who were born in the land of Bhartavarsha that is their responsibility, because they've already been given that knowledge. Now, I've been given that knowledge, so I have that same responsibility too. But practically anyone who's born in India, you know about Krishna. You know about Janmashtami. And so you have a responsibility. Like what do they say? With great power goes great responsibility. Anyways, so like if someone's wealthy, they have it's their responsibility to help people who don't have money. You see, like someone like Bill Gates, he has so much money and he's helping people. So he's fulfilling that particular responsibility on the material platform, but still. So why not on the spiritual platform? So in that sense, everyone is meant to be. So this is what we're trying to do, train everyone up as transcendental soldiers in Lord Chaitanya's army. And then when you do that, Krishna says in the Gita that no one is more dear to me than a person who does that. And there will never be one more dear to me than a person who explains this Krishna consciousness to others. This is Krishna's direct words. So he wants some special mercy. I mean, everybody asks for blessings and mercy, right? You know, Ashivat, 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 Ashivat. We talked about this before. But you want more mercy, you got to give away more mercy. The interesting thing about mercy is the more you give, the more you have. It's not like money. With money, the more you give, less you have. Believe me, I know it. So, but with mercy, the more you give. I mean, it's amazing that it's like your bank account, your spiritual bank account just like expands exponentially the more you give. So one more question and then we can...
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Get it's late. Yeah.
I have a question about chanting Gayatri Mantra.
Yes.
Without taking initiation, is it okay to chant Gayatri Mantra or not supposed to?
It won't be effective unless one is connected in the Sampradaya, initiated by the Gayatri Mantra with the proper guru. The Hare Krishna Mantra doesn't require initiation. You can chant that and you get immediate effect from it. Everybody, like Lord Chaitanya. I mean, basically, when you hear the Hare Krishna Mantra from the proper source, in one sense, that is initiation. We talked about that in the course. But the Gayatri Mantra requires hearing it from the proper source. Like I heard it from Srila Prabhupada. And even though, the Gayatri Mantra is written down, we have groups, not ISKCON, but there are many other groups who sing Gayatri Mantra in Kirtan. But the real potency from the Gayatri Mantra comes from hearing in the disciplic succession. Sampradaya vinayin mantras te nishpala mataha. So that's important. Of course, many individual words in the Gayatri Mantra are effective in and of themselves. Like starts with Om. Om is another way of saying Hare Krishna. A-U-M. Radha, Krishna, and the living entities.
So without initiation, it is not an offense to chant.
No, it's not offensive. I mean, the Gayatri Mantra is written in so many different places. Not offensive, no, but if you want the full effect, then it has to be connection to disciplic succession. Thank you very much. All glory is to Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai.